Thank you, Chairman. I've got no declarations of interest, but we have no minutes on this meeting. I've had a word with Annie. I'm quite understanding of why there isn't, but I do believe there should be, even though the name of the Scrutiny Committee has changed from Community and Engagement to Community and Partnerships. There are three of us here, yourself, Josephine and myself, that were at that last Scrutiny Committee that would have been able to have reported on those minutes. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tina French, the Assistant Director of Finance and Governance. I'm here on behalf of Rob Manser, who wasn't able to make the meeting tonight. So you have a report. The report has been brought to members for scrutiny of the effectiveness of the support offered to residents of pension age in claiming relevant available benefits they're entitled to and access to the Council's Warm Home Guarantee Scheme that was available during 24-25. As a bit of background, in autumn 2024, the Chancellor announced that only pensioners who were receiving pension credit would be able to receive a winter fuel payment. Pension credits is means tested, eligible above pension age for single people with income less than £218.15 per week, or couples with joint income less than £332.95 per week. In September 2024, the Revenue and Benefits Service were tasked with reaching out to pensioners, maximising support for those to receive their winter fuel payment. In addition, the service created a Basildon Council Warm Home Guarantee Scheme so that pensioners who were not entitled to pension credit but were just above the means testing still received some help in this space. The scheme was allocated a total of £100,000, which could support up to 1,000 pensioners' households with grants of £100 each. The Warm Home Guarantee payment was means tested. Eligibility was above the state pension age and not entitled to pension credit. The single with an income of between £218 and £400 per week, or couples with income between £330 and £550 per week. A pensions credit triage form was created, and when the completed form indicated they were either entitled for pension credits or warm home guarantee payments. Staff were available by phone or by a visit to assist with completion. Where the form identified that the pensions were not entitled to pension credit or the warm home guarantee payment, they were offered other discretionary help and hardship payments. The triage form was completed for over 500 pensioner households. The Revenue Benefits Outreach and Engagement staff also attended 47 council-owned sheltered housing schemes, community centres. Outreach take-up events were held at various places, including the Eastgate Centre, the Basildon Centre, the Wickford Library, the Humankind Cafe in Billericay, Sainsbury's Costa in Cricketer Ways, and Costa Coffee in Pips Hill. The outreach bus was also at numerous venues across the borough. The Revenue and Benefits team proactively contacted 497 pensioner households by phone or email. Overall, they helped 349 pensioners to claim pension credits and therefore their winter fuel payment. In all cases where residents were not entitled to claim pension credit and therefore their winter fuel payment, staff assisted them with the application for the Warm Home Guarantee payment of £100 and assisted with other support available. The Warm Home Guarantee Scheme was in place from September 24 to March 25, and 262 pensioner households were each supported with a £100 Warm Home Guarantee payment, so £26,200 was paid out in total. The recently announced government changes to the winter fuel payments resulted in 9 million pensioners with an annual income of $35,000 or less will now be eligible for that winter home fuel payment, with the weekly income for pensioners to be entitled rising to over £670 per week. We do not anticipate needing to offer additional support this coming winter. for consideration, and the committee considers and comments on the effectiveness of the council's approach to supporting pension age residents, including access to the Warm Home Guarantee for 24-25. Happy to take any questions.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Regarding ethnic minority engagement, were there any efforts made to reach hard to reach or ethnic or diverse communities? And because Basildon has a growing diversity, and were any community language leaflets or targeted outreach used for this?
I might well have to respond, a written response specifically to the groups, but they did contact, go out to a range of different venues to try and get as much reach. Obviously, the outreach bus is out there in the community as well, where they'll be able to get support.
And then in regards to like the equality impacts, was an equality impact assessment made for this?
I will need to confirm that.
Okay, because if you can confirm it, and let me know, because I wanted to.
Oh, yes, I would assume so, but as I didn't
Oh.
do that, I just want to check before I come back and confirm that.
Okay, once it's confirmed, I wanted to find out if what have we learned about who missed out on this scheme, and how can we improve that for the next winter.
Yeah, I don't think, because of the government announcement, we don't think we will need to for this coming winter. But yes, lessons.
Thank you very much for the report, Tina. And I think it's helpful to see that there is a positive outcome, and that plenty of pensioners were able to receive support following the council's outreach work, which I think was quite varied, which is always good to see in terms of the techniques used to engage with a part of our society. I think the question for me, Tina, I think you mentioned in the report and verbally that the council does not anticipate needing to offer additional support following the government's decision on winter fuel payments. But would you say there's still an ongoing piece of work to be done around encouraging more eligible pensioners to sign up for pension credit? As I'm sure that the take-up isn't 100% across the borough, so is there still more work to be done? Particularly, I know there might be some barriers that require more work from the council to engage with pensioners to get them to sign up, particularly as they've paid into the system their whole lives before retiring.
So based on the work that was done through this process of the Warm Home Guarantee, they're going to continue with the support offered to pensioners so they can access the proper benefits and help where they can.
I'd also remind councillors that one of the real key assets that Basildon Council has that many authorities won't have is our activity centres that operate across the borough, with significant numbers of older residents that are attending those. So our reach into those communities is particularly strong, and that is a real asset for when we're trying to reach them around schemes such as this, or just generally any kind of benefits, advice and support that we can provide.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the presentation. And I've got a few questions on it. The Warm Homes grant, was this generic or was it just for Basildon? I do believe it's a grant that goes over the country, doesn't it? The Warm Homes.
So the winter fuel payment from government was across the country. the Warm Homes Guarantee was specifically for
Just
Basildon.
Basildon. Oh, because
Yes.
I thought there was a Warm Homes grant that was helping people with boilers and things like that. But you're talking about the one that was announced at council that was given out with council money.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks very much. Yeah, so I understand that one. You spoke of the groups that were contacted and all the sheltered housing. The sheltered housing in our ward, most of those were on pension credits anyway, but I think they also got the Warm Homes grant as well. Were they eligible for both?
So if they were receiving the winter fuel allowance from government, they weren't eligible for both. This was to help residents that lost out for their payment because of the way the government scheme was introduced.
It's just that they said that to get the warm homes, you still needed to be on pension credits. Is that correct?
So in order to get the winter fuel payment from government, you had to be on pension credit. So the scheme was designed to fill that gap from those pensioners that previously got the winter fuel payment from government, to give them assistance with their energy bills.
No, what I meant was, I was told. I mean, I don't know, but that to get the council grants, you still had to be on pension credits. So you're saying that isn't the case? Yeah.
No, that isn't the case. It was means tested, but you weren't on pension credit.
Oh, it was means tested. So you needed. Does that mean you needed to be on some kind of benefit?
I think what she's trying to say is there has to be a financial breakdown to see if you're eligible for it.
No, I know what.
So everything's taken into account.
No, I understand that. To get the winter fuel payments, the government said you need to be on pension credits. You didn't need to be on pension credits for the council grant, but the additional question that I asked was, did you need to be on a benefit of some kind? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
No, you had to be on pension credit to get the winter fuel payment this year.
You answered.
Yeah, so it was means tested. It was about your level of income. So in order to get the Warm Homes Guarantee from the council, it was for a single person with an income of between £218.16 per week and £400 per week. For a couple, that was between £332.96 and £550 per week.
You mentioned that in your presentation. Yes, I remember that, but I wasn't sure. But that was the means test of it. That was the income. Lovely. Thanks very much for that one. In what wards was the grants taken up? Because I know that we have some quite deprived areas in Basildon. I just wanted to know the reach and the breadth that the council grant reached out all over the borough.
I don't have that information to hand, but if it's okay to do a written response so I can get the detailed analysis and share that with the committee.
Yes, that would be good. Thank you. When you say that you contacted groups and you also went to community centres, what can you tell? Well, have you got any detail on that? Because it's important that groups were contacted, because the people that I spoke to, they had not been contacted. There was very little help for them. The help, I know that there was help for sheltered housing, but they weren't losing the winter fuel payment because they were on pension credits.
So there was a manner of approaches that the team took. So they, based on the data they have, They contacted 497 pensioner households based on who they thought might be eligible for this, and then they reached out through, there was the outreach bus and a number of venues across the borough.
Because you mentioned community centres.
Yes. So across all council-owned sheltered housing schemes and community centres, outreach take-up events were held at various events, including the Eastgate Centre, Basildon Centre, etc.
Because the one at Note Bridge, that didn't have any contact. I just thought I'd let you know that as a matter of point. Oh, just a final question, Chairman. You said, so how many? Sorry, you're not finished. How many elderly people were there that you engaged with that were not entitled to the winter fuel payment, and also not entitled to the warm? Do we know the warm homes payment?
So we contacted those 497 who we thought would be. We supported 349 pensioners to get their winter fuel payments so that they were on pension credits, and then we made the payments to 262. I don't have the detail in terms of how many conversations we had with different individuals in total. I can follow that up to see if we have that information.
Yeah, thank you. But of that 400, 200 and something were successful, yeah?
Yes.
Lovely, thank you.
Sorry. The next item is annual performance report on the council's leisure contracts.
Yeah, this performance report does what it says on the tin. Basically, it highlights the performance of the 3 leisure centres, and I'm pleased to say paints a very positive picture, generally speaking. Between April 2024 and March 2025, there were over 2 million visits logged at Basildon Sporting Village, Eversley Leisure Centre and Wickford Swim and Fitness Centre. The overall figure is 16% higher than the previous year, with all 3 centres experiencing an increase in total visits. Attendance at the Basildon Sporting Village was up 17.6% during this year. Eversley Leisure Centre reported an increase in attendance of 47.8%. I think it's only fair to point out on that one that it was the first full year of Eversley having a swimming pool. The swimming pool was in situ towards the back end of the previous year, but also that does have a significant impact on the huge increase there, but it's still a huge increase and very welcome. Wickford Swim and Fitness Centre also saw a rise, albeit a more modest one, of 3.9%. Page 11 of the report shows a month-by-month breakdown of participation across the 3 centres. You can read, so I don't need to go through all that, but it is pleasing to note how far ahead of target these figures are. In 2023-24, the percentage above target was 31%, and in 2024-25, the figure in excess of target was 52.3%. So again, very pleasing figures, very indicative of how well the leisure centres are doing, and in accord with our aims to improve the health and well-being of our residents. A whole series of events and innovations took place during the year, including the construction of 4 state-of-the-art paddle tennis courts. This is the country's fastest growing sport at the moment, and it's been an immediate success. I even had a go myself. Not very well, but I had a go. An annual performance report into the centres also highlights fitness memberships are at an all-time high across the 3 sites. Earlier this year as well, Basildon Sporting Village achieved a very good accreditation from Quest, the Sport England recommended measure to gauge how effective organisations are at providing customer service. So all in all, a very healthy picture. The report is for noting, so I don't think I need to say any more, and it is relatively straightforward, albeit very positive. But I'm happy to take questions if there are any, and obviously Grant Taylor is here if there are any more technical questions. And we have a representative from Sporting Village as well, Sean is here as well, in case there are any specific that are more appropriate for him. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that report, Councillor Hayden. I've just got quite a few questions. I've put them into different categories. So my first one is like, are we mapping attendance data against areas of deprivation? Are residents in the most deprived wards accessing these facilities as much as others?
Right, so two answers. Grant will give you more detail. Two answers, yes, I believe we do map that information as best we can, so we do have data on that. It's not been ignored. And the second answer, I don't think you'll be surprised to know, Councillor Joseph, is the figures for the most deprived areas are not as high as elsewhere. However, a lot of work is taking place to improve that. But I'll hand over to Grant, who'll probably give you a lot more technical expertise than I can.
I don't say expertise, but so we follow a method where we look at it's. Obviously, we're not got our details actually from the individuals themselves in relation to that, but what we can do is look at postcode data, and we look at postcodes that are in the indices of mass deprivation 1 to 4, and we can see that we are in and around, I don't know the exact number, about 35% of those that are coming through the turnstiles are coming from our areas that are in the postcodes with the 1 to 4 in the indices of mass deprivation. So that is something we are regularly looking at in our work, and we'd like to grow that. But when you look at the size of the figures of people, over 2 million visits coming through a year, the fact that about 35% of them are from our lower income postcodes is something we're pleased with, but we'd like to do even better, of course.
And then my next question is, what data do we have on participation from disabled residents, ethnic minorities or older people, and how are we removing barriers for these groups?
I'll have a go. So I'm just looking. So what I've got in front of me, because I don't think we've got this for 24-25, but I've got the 23-24 and on that. So straight away from a percentage of visits by BAME communities as a percentage. So we can see that when you look at the percentage of those that are identified in a BAME community in the borough, it's saying here that 57.4, we're reaching 57.4% of that population. With regards to BAME, women and girls, it's 51.5%. Young people under 16 was 25.5%. Persons with a life-limiting disability is much lower, and something we need to really build on. That's not so high. But I would always say that Basildon Sporting Village, as people will know, was the first leisure centre in the country to have an occupational therapist working from it. They're still working from it today. They're up and down the country talking about the work they do. I'm talking about Sport for Confidence, of course. So we've got some significant national indicators around the work that we do there, leading. What else did you ask me? Sorry.
Oh, I was asking, how are we removing those barriers for these groups that are not being catered for?
So I should have said that. So Sport for Confidence, I think, is a really big offer. So, first leisure centre in the whole of the country to have occupational therapists working from it. They're part of the contract. They're not there because they've got a lottery grant. It's fundamental to what we do there. Huge numbers coming through. Probably, Sean, do you have the numbers around Sport for Confidence? But I know that if I go there on a Tuesday, we've probably got 100 people in the building.
It runs into the tens of thousands per year over the course of the year. It's an incredibly well attended organisation. I think, Grant, as well, if I could just add as well, in terms of encouraging participation, we've also installed the pool pods at Eversley Leisure Centre and also at the Basildon Sporting Village. They allow access directly into our swimming pools for people that have got mobility issues, additional needs, and also like the ageing population as well. I think when it was introduced at the Sporting Village, it was Basildon Council's most popular Facebook post ever, most liked post ever, with about 250,000 likes, I think, or views. So, yeah, there's a number of different initiatives, as well as working with all sorts of different organisations to help encourage participation.
Come back in briefly. Yeah, going back to, I think, the first point about 35% take up from deprived postcodes. Obviously, it's a bit of a blunt instrument, but it's the best we've got, because you know, you can't ask people, are you deprived of that? And also you might not get a reliable response if you did. But it's the best. But also 35%, we want it to be higher, but it does reflect quite well nationally, well, very well nationally, I would say. So yeah, so albeit we're pushing to increase that in terms of the national picture, that's pretty good. You mentioned youth as well. Actually, Sport for Confidence, I should say. I would encourage any councillors who have the time to go and see it. Grant took me along. It is absolutely brilliant, and very incredibly inclusive, because we've got people with all sorts of different disabilities, but they're all catered for, and all really get an awful lot from it. And the occupational therapist that runs those sessions is absolutely brilliant. So that's great stuff. In terms of young people, we're not where we want to be. We're working hard on that as well. We've got the Friday night sessions with Flex, a youth organisation at the moment, that are relatively early days, but great success so far. And again, in terms of the ethnic minority reach, certainly doing very well in that regard, but across the board. So yeah, a lot of positive stuff, and I think what we do quite well is the council and the leisure centres work well together to communicate what is happening, because part of the problem is, and we're not perfect, but part of the problem is people just don't know these things are going on, and also things like the Flex Friday night sessions is really good because they're heavily subsidised, and a lot of young people just couldn't afford to use the facilities of Sporting Village otherwise. So we're doing a lot of work. Sorry.
Sergeant.
Thank you, Chairman. I was very fortunate to be one of the councillors a long time ago when we put together the prospect of this Sporting Village. And since it's been built, it has gone from strength to strength to strength. It's always occupied, it's very well attended. And at one time in 2012, we had the Japanese swimmers and the Matt Whitlock, and to be able to witness that. And when we had the actual 2012 Olympics, they came to the Sporting Village. I was the only councillor at the time that did control duty in the crowds, and it was absolutely a fantastic day. But the Sporting Village, it really is the jewel in the crown of this council, and it has been since its inception, and with a lot of people to thank that supported the council on getting that together. And it's really pleasing to know that it doesn't dip. Even though Councillor Yakub once said that it was a council that it was going bankrupt, I mean, that was silly, because it's just gone wild, and it's so lovely that all ages, nationalities, everybody is using it and enjoying it, so that's great. I've only got just one question to ask Grant, and that is, do you do surveys from the actual users? Because it would be interesting to know what their feelings are on the facilities, because there's a fantastic size pool in there and all the other facilities, Grant, so that would be great if we had some information on that. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor, so we participate in Sport England's National Moving Communities Survey, so that asks a whole deep level of information from service users, and that's an ongoing process. So it's something quite significant, and we're part of the national question. But of course, we do get that information broken down by site as well. So yes, we do.
Councillor Mordecai.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's only a quick question. Just out of curiosity, what's the most popular sports? what's the least popular sports. So clearly for Councillor McGowan and I, paddle tennis is going to be one of them.
Yeah, I would say probably swimming is the highest participation with the variety of the clubs, the Learn to Swim scheme that we have there that's got around about 3,000 children that come to swim every week. Basildon Phoenix Swimming Club are the most successful club in Essex. They're currently dominating swimming in Essex. Coupled with that, the general participation in swimming is very high. We run a number of classes as well. And also there's around about 35 primary schools that learn to swim there every week. So I would say swimming is probably the most popular activity, closely followed by gymnastics. So with the South Essex Gymnastics Centre, you know, it's huge levels of participation. Outside of that, there's high level of participation in football. We've also resurfaced the hockey pitch so that we can sustain participation in hockey. You know, we're very mindful that it is the sporting village and we do want to continue to offer a wide range of sports. So paddle is going to be a very strong contender in terms of participation in future years, and we're also going to be opening a golf driving range hopefully by November. So yeah.
What about the lower end? Stuff that's not really getting used. We like you've had more.
Can I just come in there, Sean? You can come back by all means. I don't think there's anything that's not being used. Obviously, things being used more than others. I mean, and I think Sean mentioned hockey. I think that's an interesting example because, you know, there was a significant investment in the hockey pitch. Now, hockey is not doesn't have the popularity it used to have, but that doesn't mean that people who play hockey aren't passionate about it and are trying to introduce a whole new generation to play hockey as well. So that's an example of where, you know, and let's be honest as well, you know, boys and girls play hockey, but traditionally more girls than boys played hockey. We've now got, you know, the Lionesses playing in the Euros at the moment, which is great, but some of the more traditional female sports like hockey have suffered as a result. So we're trying to support sports like that may have dipped in popularity and make sure that they have the support they need. But there's no facility there that's not being used. You know.
Yeah, I knew that. It was
just like it's just some are used more than others. You know.
I just want to disassociate myself from Sean because he didn't mention netball, which is huge, and I can imagine the netball comments in the morning if we don't mention the huge participation in netball we have in the Sporting Village.
Well, I'd just like to say that as a former hockey player, I'm up for the hockey.
So following on from the questions that I had before, are there any patterns showing lower attendance due to poor transport links, especially for Eversley and Wickford?
I think both of those sites are very much part of the local communities, and they're within walking distance for a large proportion of their communities. I think unlike the Sporting Village, which is very much isolated, Eversley and Wickford have both shown considerable increases in attendance. Less so at Wickford, I think, because the facility is already close to its capacity. But Eversley, we haven't really seen any or heard of any negative comments with regards to accessing the facilities.
Come in on that as well. So in terms of Eversley, I think Sean makes a good point though, because it's like, you know, Wickford. In terms of Eversley, you've got a swimming pool, so you can see a massive spike. So, like, I don't want people to think that because Wickford isn't enjoying the same sort of increase, that's a problem because it's a very well-established, like you say, sport that's probably at capacity. So in a way, it's almost plateauing because it's been there for so long. It's developed probably pretty much as it realistically can be, but it's still increasing, just not as much as some of the others.
And then when it comes to school partnerships, Key Stage 2 swimming lessons are very strong. And you also mentioned that there are schools, 35 schools, did you say that?
Yeah.
Make use of the swimming pool. So I wanted to know, are we ensuring that all schools are benefiting equally, and are there any gaps?
The biggest barrier to participation in terms of school swimming is the cost of transportation. So we charge around about £3 per child per lesson. So it's an incredibly competitive rate. But that is just a very small part of the overall cost of actually getting children to and from the facility. It's becoming more and more of a nationwide problem where we're seeing schools' participation is starting to decrease. So it's something that we're very mindful of.
And then are leisure services offering subsidies or discounts for lower income families, particularly now during a cost of living crisis?
So the summer of sport last year was a huge success. I'm going to plug it again. We're starting again our first event this coming Saturday, and we're going to have a really great summer again. One of the things that was a real staple of it last year and again this year is subsidised access to the centres for family activities. So that is something we do each summer holidays with everyone active, and it's part of their national scheme. We Are Families, that's called, the We Are Family scheme. So the council will be pushing that heavily again, just like we did last year, with regards to our summer of sport. And I know that that worked particularly well. The council's comms was particularly strong in the fact the number of people participating in that scheme last year was really high compared to where it was offered up and down the country and other everyone active sites. So soon as the summer sport was over last year, I had Sean's colleague saying, please tell me you're doing that again next year. And we will be.
Great, and I've got two final questions. So how are the leisure centres linked to youth development, and are we running any initiatives with local youth groups or targeted programmes for teenagers?
Yes. So on a Friday night, we have Everyone Loves a Friday Night. We've developed that with Flex Youth Club. So we have youth workers in residence at the Sporting Village. Again, really affordable, £2.50, can come in and take part in any number of different sports with youth workers there, working with Flex, working with Essex County Council Youth Services. That's a term timely piece of work we've been piloting. I do know Flex are going to carry on working over the summer holidays as well. But yes, that is very much part of our staple now. And we're really pleased with that.
That's really good. I'm happy to hear that. Then my last question is, can we get more transparency on how the profit share is calculated and whether this can be improved to benefit the residents?
I mean, obviously, profit share is contractual. So yes, we can. I'm always happy to kind of talk councils through and share that. We are doing some work at the minute just to ensure best value. We've had a consultant in, and we're going through that process at the moment. But yes, of course, I'd be happy to speak it through. But it's a live piece of work that we're doing currently. But of course, I have to accept the fact that these are contracts that are signed, and we're acting within those contracts. But last year we brought in approximately, I think it's about just over £150,000 in profit share, which was the most, I believe, ever since the contract started. Certainly is since I've been doing this over the last too long.
And just add on that one, yeah, it is something we're looking at, and just responding to that point. It is something we're looking at. I don't want to go into it, but I mean, Grant's basically outlined the issues involved. It is a long-term contract, so there's limited scope, but if we can improve things, we will improve things.
Thank you, Chairman. The gentleman brought up about this swimming and the cost of the transportation. I'm a governor at Crays Hill, and this is an enormous problem for them. They don't use the Sporting Village. I think they go to Whitford. But nonetheless, swimming is such a major activity for adults, let alone children, and it is so necessary to get our young people to learn to swim. And I know from my own school that should there be problems with budgets, which there will be, I would hate the swimming to stop. So I'll go back to the Cabinet member and say, is there anything that can be done? I mean, I do understand you're on the County Council as well, and I know they're paying out lots of money for buses to schools, etc. But is there anything that we can do to help out with this transportation costs? I mean, whether it's a big you know, one of those big first buses that can take massive amount of children, but it's just so necessary to get those children to school, and particularly to all of that. I know we are discussing the sporting village here today, and I'm pleased to be doing that, but I mean, if there's anything that we can do as a council to try to reduce those costs, because then it would mean that our youngsters would have that opportunity, because once you learn to swim, that's it, you learn to swim. And then as they get older, they're not going to need, you know, they can just go with parents and friends, etc. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, on that, just to be clear, and I'm not being pedantic here, we're talking about the 3 leisure centres, not just Basildon Sporting Village. It's the whole contract which governs the 3 leisure centres. In terms of helping with the costs, I'd say 2 things. As Sean said, he's absolutely right. It's a national problem. It's not specific to Basildon. It's not even particularly more pertinent to Basildon than anywhere else. But I think given that 80% of our council tax goes to Essex, if we're looking at a contribution in terms of a financial contribution to help with swimming costs, we should be looking to Essex County Council, because I'll be honest, given our stretched budgets, being realistic, I'm not sure what we can do. I mean, again, we will be, as always, we talk to the government because we have a strong relationship with this government, and we'll be talking to the government to see what they can do, because the previous government didn't address the issue. This one hasn't yet, but maybe it will. But it is a national issue, but I'm happy to raise it with Essex County Council to see what they can do, and I'm sure Councillor Sargent will raise it with her colleagues on the Essex County Council group so that they can raise it as well.
I was in no means trying to make this a political point. I am, as I say, a governor of a school, and I know that, and you know, concentrating on Basildon, it's so how important it is to get our children to those swimming classes. And we have a cabinet member here this evening, so I've asked the cabinet member, that's the whole point of scrutiny. We've come up against something, and as I said, Councillor, you are on the County Council. You are the scrutiny member that's come along this evening, so I'm putting the plight to yourself. You know, I'm not here to talk about whatever council tax, but it just might help that you can, because it's been to scrutiny, and it's one of the action points that we would like to see. It's going to be a hard task, and yes, you can speak to your government. I mean, that would be good. But any help that we can get, the county council might know. It might not just be them. It could be companies. It could be anything. Anybody that knows anything or runs transportation, I would ask that those avenues are opened up so that we can bring those transportation costs down. We can't alleviate them, but we can try to get them down, because they are, as has been said, extremely high. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, well, as I've said, I'm not disagreeing with Councillor Sargent in the respect of how important this is. I've made it very clear that what I can and what this council can do, it will do, but I've also been honest about the financial pressures and the fact that it's a national problem, and that it would be misleading of me to say that Basildon Council has a magic money tree that it can shake to make it much cheaper for our children to get swimming lessons. The good news is many of our schools are taking the children on a regular basis to have swimming lessons, so it's not doom and gloom. It's happening. There is financial pressure on it, and I realise that, but it is actually happening at the moment. One of the reasons I mention Essex County Council is not just that they have deeper pockets than us, which they do, that's a fact, but they run the local bus services. So their relationships with the bus companies is stronger than ours. But I will always do whatever we can do as a council to improve the prospects of our residents, whether that's to do with swimming, to do with youth activity, whatever it is. I will always do that. So I'm not making any political points, but the fact is it's a national problem. It's not a Basildon problem. But what I'm not going to do is promise loads of money that Councillor Sargent knows and I know isn't available at the moment. I'm not going to do that.
Can I just say that having been chairman of governors in a primary school, that it is the biggest expense, is the buses, and the transport has to be of a type of quality that it can take the children. This is all under contract from Essex County Council, and so at the moment I don't know what we can do.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we can do, and we will do. Myself and Grant will work on a letter to the Department of Culture, Media and Sport to draw this to their attention. I'm sure we won't be the only council in the country doing that, but we'll happily do that as a concrete action out of tonight's meeting. I'm more than happy to do that.
If I can just say, the councillor hit the nail on the head. As Essex, Essex may not have the money, whatever happens, but as you've said, Chairman, they're running the service, the bus service, and the Chairman made that exact point. It is the most expensive thing, and they really do want their children to have those lessons. It's just that take the politics out, take the action, and try and see what, if anything, I don't, no magic money trees there isn't. All I want to do is for this council to try and help those kids learn to swim. Thank you.
I'll just come back on that. Yeah, again, I'm glad that Councillor Sargent seems to agree with me about Essex relationship with the bus companies, which is a fact. Another fact is I am one of 6 Labour councillors on Essex County Council. It's a Conservative-run administration. She has colleagues that serve on this council, always also serve on Essex County Council. So given I'm trying to be positive and connect with my government, I hope Councillor Sargent will take a leaf out of my book and extend this message to the Essex County councillors on her side of the political divide who have the ear of the administration in a way that I'm happy to admit I don't.
You're here for scrutiny. This is what this committee's about. We've come up with an action, and I've asked you as a cabinet member.
I've come up with an action and I've asked you to reciprocate that, but you don't seem to be terribly keen to do that as a member of the Scrutiny Committee. Now, that's your decision, but I've come up with an action.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it's worth noting a thanks to Councillor McGurran for attending as the Cabinet member this evening, making himself accessible and available to members for scrutiny and being here to answer questions from members to support the scrutiny process. And I think Councillor Sargent's absolutely right as well to point out that the sporting village has proved itself as a real asset of community value and a place where, particularly in reference to Max Whitlock, a place where children can take inspiration from a homegrown gold medal winning Olympian. I think it's right to kind of highlight that positive story from the sporting village almost from day one, really. As you mentioned, the Japanese Paralympic team trained there as well, and I think your Councillor Joseph mentioned the importance of ensuring that the services that the leisure centres provide are inclusive. A question from me, and I think it's right to talk about the financial aspect as much as it is the usage aspect and the inclusiveness of the demographic groups that use it. And of course, I think it's positive to see that it is turning a profit. I know that the figures for this year are to come out when the accounts are finalised for the year. But I think it's positive, that it does provide a profit for the council to reinvest and invest in frontline services. So I'd like to ask the Cabinet member and the officers here this evening, kind of what do you think we can do in the future to ensure that leisure contracts provide kind of good value for residents as service users and as taxpayers?
So yeah, as I said earlier, that we are doing a piece of work at the moment with everyone active and also with an independent consultant, just having a little bit of a healthy review. Now we are so far into the contract. Contracts get signed at different times with different a bit like the housing market when things are at different stages at different times when things get signed. So it's been a very good and fruitful conversation. That's not completed yet. We're waiting for the feedback from the consultant, but I can rest assured that we are looking just to ensure that we're benchmarking and making sure that our contract is working appropriately for the size of the building. What's absolutely clear from the report is that the impact it's making is absolutely correct, and well, why, as Councillor McGarren said, I think we were about just over 52% above what the figures we thought would be coming through the door this time 13 years ago. So on that basis, we also need to look at some of the finances. So that is in process.
Could I just add, if I may, Madam Chair? Yeah, I mean, yeah, just echo what Grant said there, really. We do have a very good relationship with everyone active, and we do work very closely with them. I think that's evidenced by what you've heard tonight. And this is not in any way a criticism, as Grant's alluded to, in a very diplomatic way. The trouble with long-term contracts is they are long-term contracts and circumstances change. So whilst it is a contract, I think that from time to time it does need to be revisited and see if we can extract a little bit more value out of things. But, you know, the relationship's a good one. The figures that you've seen in the report that I highlighted are really, really positive. And there's, you know, there's a lot of work going on all the time so that trajectory continues.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, I think, picking up on the point about accessibility, transport as well, and I think it's great to see the Cabinet member be proactive in making sure that government understands the reality of life for service users and residents here in Basildon. I think you're probably right that the bus service use probably is a big element of making improvements there. But I think, is there, I'm so keen to get the Cabinet member's view and also the officers' views, that is there other pieces of work that can be done, some kind of outside the box thinking? I've imagined, for example, were there cycle schemes that the council could sponsor or be a part of to make sure that children that might not be able to kind of afford a bike have access to that, to be able to get to places, leisure centres themselves. You know, when I was younger, I used to cycle over from my home in Langdon Hills over to the sporting village. That's how I accessed the centres. So I suppose, is there kind of some more outside the box thinking and other pieces of work beyond kind of going cap in hand to County Hall to make sure that, you know, we make sure that services are accessible? And I think there's the double whammy as well in terms of supporting sustainable transport, healthy lifestyles, and, you know, keeping car usage low. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm all in favour of outside of the box thinking. We do a lot of it. We don't, you know. I was going to say there's no such thing as a daft idea. That's not true. There are many, many really daft ideas. But I would never decry anyone for coming out with an idea just to sense test it to work out if it is daft or not. As you know, we do have a very successful bike recycling scheme operating out of Barley Lands. There may be scope for extending what we're already doing there. We're you know, it is very successful. We're looking at it. I mean, it's interesting as well. And you know, if you look at the report, it details the figures for each leisure centre and school visits. And Eversley is particularly high. And again, I think there's a reason for that, because proximity. So, you know, the sporting village, and again, this is not a criticism, isn't the easiest place to get to. But the Eversley Centre it is easier, not perfect, but easier. So, you know, listen, we will look at anything. We want to get our residents as involved in the activities as possible. We want to get our young people off to a good start, whether it's swimming or whatever sporting interest as well. I'll accept the importance of swimming. So yeah, there's a lot of work going on, and you know, we talked about the Flex Youth Club situation on Friday. So that's just the beginning. It's not like that's it. We're going to stop there. It's like, right, what's next? And we'll be talking to a lot of other organisations that work with youth. And I should say, in terms of Flex, because I've been to one of the Friday evening sessions at the Sporting Village, the youth workers are fantastic. They are absolutely brilliant. They're so enthusiastic and so motivating. It is a joy to watch. So that, yeah, watch this space. There's a lot more to come, Councillor Ansell. And if you have any outside the box ideas of your own, or anyone else for that matter, please share them. We're more than happy to receive them.
Okay, is anybody else? Emma.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for. I was invited by email to be here tonight as the Cabinet Member for Performance, Partnerships and Engagement. I think we've touched on a lot of points, cross-cutting points that are something we can be proactive about. For example, we have asked for a detail amongst the committee tonight, more detail on the kinds of people using services, the kinds of people being engaged with. That detail has not quite been forthcoming. We've got some good stats of what kinds of people are using our leisure centres, but is there scope for us to do more, to drill down into the detail a little bit more, to tell us, you know, who these people are, which part of the wards they live in, what age brackets they are, you know, any kind of detail that just brings us a bit closer to the communities that we're looking to support. I ask because we have some really great initiatives happening at the moment internally. We have a hub, a community engagement hub, a digital platform that was launched a couple of weeks ago, and it flags initiatives that can help people's health and well-being to people who might be in need. I'm wondering if there's a piece of work to plug in the different programs and initiatives that our sporting contractors provide, you know, which are backed by the council, bring them into that platform, which is called Elemental. I know that Grant is working very closely with it as well as the Revs and Bends team. The purpose of that is to make sure people know in the borough where they can go and connect with different groups and can improve their own health and well-being. And I think there's just something about bringing that together. A member of the committee mentioned surveys to feed back on people's experience. I think that is a really good idea because, you know, we really want to know what the barriers are. You know, so Vice Chair of the committee, Councillor Ansell, he mentioned that 13 years ago, nothing stopped him getting on his bike and driving, like cycling from Langdon Hills to Basildon Sporting Village. You know, would a kid today feel as safe doing that? You know, what are the barriers to them? Is it financial? Is it safety? Is it the state of the roads? Is it the street lights? You know, it all kind of comes together. So I think surveys on how people, you know, feel about the services, what they'd like to see more of, I think that'd be really beneficial to us as a partnership, the council and our contracting partners. And I would just say, you know, this Basildon Sporting Village, you know, I use it myself. I use one of the free programs at the moment, the backside to trackside one, which I really enjoy, and think that, you know, we need more of this stuff in our borough because you see people of varying levels of fitness and confidence coming together with no financial barrier, you know, apart from transport that we've addressed tonight. And I would just say, you know, maybe 13 odd years ago when the council was bringing forward the Basildon Sporting Village, was everyone a believer in the fact that it would prove itself and the fact that, you know, it would turn such a great profit, that it would bring people together, put Basildon on the map the way it has? And I would just urge, you know, all members of the committee to think about that when we're assessing the future potential of forthcoming projects for Basildon at the moment. You know, we're trying to put Basildon on the map in the same way that Basildon Sporting Village has successfully done around regeneration and youth services. So I just say, you know, let's all have an open mind about what these initiatives can really bring, because, you know, 15 years ago, would people have believed in the concept of Basildon Sporting Village? It's proved itself 10 times over. And I think that in 2025, you know, we need to start going at things with an open mind and creating more things that put Basildon on the map. So thank you for your time, Chair.
Thank you. Just on that, Madam Chair, there's a lot there to cover. I think in terms of the data, we do have a lot of that data, but I think, again, Councillor Callahan won't be shocked to hear one of the problems with the data we have, it's not sufficiently joined up, it doesn't correlate with other bits of data from the council. I know there's a lot of work going on to make sure that that is the case. I mean, I'll let Grant and possibly Sean say a bit more on what they feel that specifically we could do to improve the data. You know, listen, it's not perfect, that's for sure, but it's not that you know, we don't have any data. It's perhaps not as joined up as it should be, and it's certainly not as sophisticated as it can and will be. So that's one point. I think Councillor Callahan made a very good point about barriers for young people, because that's can be a real problem. And you mentioned like safety, state of the roads, lights, cycling, you know, transport. It's all of those, you know, to an extent. But actually, I think what I've encountered lately, talking to a lot of young people at different events, is I think the safety element or the perceived feeling of safety, of not feeling sufficiently safe, is more significant than perhaps I had traditionally realised. Now, that's not to say that, you know, we do have crime in Basildon. We have crime, you know, young people are more of a victim of it than other groups. But that doesn't mean Basildon is massively unsafe. But if the perception is amongst young people that they're particularly at risk, then that's an issue. So I think that is something we definitely need to work on. And one of the good things about the Friday night sessions is people feel that the kids taking part feel safe. And one of the interesting things right from the start, it was every school in Basildon and Billericay taking part. So it's like what often happens with these schemes, if we're being honest, is one or two schools take part and the others won't, because there's this kind of mentality. It's like, it's just them, it's not for us. So not only are they all taking part, but they're really cooperating well, getting on really well. There's absolutely no bother. And a lot of bridges have been made, which is very positive. So I think we need more of that, basically. And I'm sure there's lots more points, but I can't remember them, so I'll let Grant come in.
I mean, I think these are exactly the right questions, and we need to carry on asking ourselves these. I think we do a lot, and I'm very grateful to so many partners that participate in doing this work with us. But there is more we can do. I'm sure there's work to be done around data sharing. It's never simple, but it can be done in the right way. I think we're getting almost into the wider piece of work though that we do in relation to leisure, culture, and community. I think we need to remind ourselves outside of this contract, and I appreciate we're here to talk about this contract, but we're now recording about 6,000 incidences of people participating in free or affordable activities out in our parks, out in our community centres, principally young people every month in our ATF sessions with Flex, sessions with Bar and Bus, sessions with Motivated Minds, and lots of the things that we've been able to work with the community to secure significant, millions of pounds investment into our community sector. So we're really, really pleased with that piece. It is a little bit crude data though, and it's very much bums on seats, and therefore our ability to know the details on those on individuals is very difficult. I've worked with universities on some of this stuff in the past, and it is very difficult, because if you're running an hour session, if it's up to an academic in a university, you'd spend the first 40 minutes filling a form out on yourself, and that is a difficulty, if I'm honest with you. So there is work that we need to do in this space, and I think there are some things that perhaps we can look at though in relation to perhaps cards, etc., that gain that information straight off. I think that's probably not a conversation for now, because that will have cost implications and all sorts of things that it's not for me to line us up to. But maybe we can look at some of that stuff in the future. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Grant. Right, is there any other questions on this?
I think Grant wants to talk, Chair.
So just one closing point. I think it would be remiss of me not to say it. At the moment, we are fixing the swimming pool floor at Basildon Sporting Village. We're very, very proud that the Sporting Village has an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's the only Olympic-sized swimming pool in Essex. For the last few years, we've got ourselves in a situation where clearly we want a 50-metre swimming pool that can be both 50 metre to support that elite competition. and like we had when we've spoken so much about the Japanese Paralympic team, and also Sean mentioned the huge success of Basildon Phoenix Swimming Club. But also, we wanted to do all sorts of things. We wanted to be a place where people can do swimming lessons, where we can do water aerobics, where we can do exercise in the pool, and people can just have fun whilst different things are going in different spaces. So we have, with our colleagues at Everyone Active, chosen to take the plunge. Thank you. And we're fixing the pool. That will be reopened in September. We're really excited about it. It's gone exceptionally well. It's been a huge project. But what I would say straight off, I'm getting my excuses in early. When we're here next year, we will see significant dip, because closing a 50-metre pool for 4 months. Did I? That's good. I'm here all week. It will have significant. It will show quite a significant fall in numbers. So I just wanted to explain that will be a big impact, but we will be building back bigger and better from that, I'm sure.
May that not be offset to some extent by an increase in Eversley and possibly Wickford?
Possibly. I mean, I think it's naive to think that a 50-metre pool can do it, but I think we will see that to some degree. And yes, there's been a very clear mitigation plan. We didn't simply close the pool and say, good luck, everyone. There was a real process in trying to get as much of that into much of the classes and lessons into Eversley and into Wickford. But also, we have to accept that some people would have gone and be swimming in neighbouring authorities, and regrettably, some people would have stopped swimming for that period. But we're determined to get them back. But we needed to fix the floor. It was the right thing to do, and it was only last week when I was there. And we mentioned earlier about hockey, and we're really passionate that Basildon Sporting Village is a place where as many sports are played as possible. With the new floor, we'll be able to introduce water polo for the first ever time. So a new sport will be coming. So that'll be really good, and we're really pleased with that.
So can I just ask you the question? We're coming up to the school holidays, and you're saying about the floor in the swimming pool. Will the children be able to swim?
Not at Sporting Village. It won't be fixed until 1st of September, I think it's due. So yes, no. So there's obviously swimming at Wickford and there's swimming at Eversley, but that particular pool floor is being fixed.
So why did we choose to do it during the school holiday?
Yeah, it's been over 6 months we've been doing it. It's a huge 5 months probably, is it, Sean? 5 months. It's been a huge piece of work to replace that pool floor.
Right, so there's no swimming at the Sporting Village at all?
Yeah, so if I can just come in there. Madam Chairman. Sure?
Do you mind? I'm just trying to clarify something.
Yeah, no, it's a legitimate question.
I'm trying to clarify something
to
for people who've got children going on school holidays now as to whether there's swimming there or whether there isn't. So do you mind? You've had your time.
Yeah. Sean will give you a more comprehensive answer in terms of the technology involved, etc. It is a massive project. I said 6 months. Apparently, it's more like 5 months. It's unfortunate that the summer holidays are part of this, obviously, but it would never be. There would never be a good time, because a lot of the use in terms of swimming clubs, swimming regattas, etc., is winter use, and Sean will probably tell you a lot more about that. But I take your point, and what I would say is those that can get to Eversley Pool or Wickford Pool, please go there, because they are open.
Thank you.
If I could just add to the points made, again, there was never going to be a good time to do it. So whilst we understand that closing the pool throughout the summer holidays is not ideal, but it also limits the amount of disruption that the school swimming gets as well as a contrary to that. Furthermore as well, the teaching pool is still open at the Sporting Village. So it's only the main pool that's closed. So whilst the availability has been severely limited, we've tried to mitigate that as far as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more? Right, well the next item is the work programme 25-26.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the report sets out the work programme that has been set out. There were some areas brought forward from last year and a number of areas that the chair and vice chair have identified as priorities in liaison with officers, but obviously very happy to add other items as required.
Right. Is there anybody who wants to add any more items? Councillor Sargent.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was surprised that the CVS wasn't on this evening's agenda because it is quite a small agenda. The CVS, as most people know now, is closing this month, and there are grave concerns over the fact that there are a high number of community organisations within the borough and who have benefited from the services of the CVS, recruitment of volunteers, training, grants, external grant funding, and it would be good to be able to find out exactly what help the organisations within the borough will now get. I'm not asking for any, I'm just pointing out so that you, Chairman, can take that back to whoever, so that if we can have this on at the next meeting, so that we can then give this a good, so that the next meeting, I believe, looks like it's the 6th of November, so that we can scrutinise exactly what is going on. So if we can have a good report as to the organisations, who can do what and whatever, so that those voluntary organisations have got the prop up and they're not closing for lack of support. Thank you.
Grant, could you answer that, please?
Yes, Councillor, we can pull a report together on that basis. That's no problem at all.
But I am aware of it, and the officer, I think, who's dealing with it is not here at the moment. Is that officer off sick or something, or?
No, the officer who's leading on. So what's that? At the moment, we're working with the CVS, we're working with Essex County Council, and to do a kind of to understand the kind of the mitigation plan for where certain inquiries and support will go once the CVS is no longer here. So one of my colleagues is leading on that. They're doing that piece of work at the moment, and I would very happily bring that to the next committee as to their findings and what we're actioning. But it's very much a tripartite. As Councillor McGarren said a few times tonight, Essex County Council do commission a number of services to support voluntary sector organisations over a long period of time. And they have got a new commissioning model, and obviously we have our own communities team. So we are trying to work out where different inquiries and different support will go, and where the gaps are, and what our plans are for that. But I must admit that Councillor Ferguson has been very much leading that from the front.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for that grant. But there is a grant still, because we did give the CVS a grant, as we all know, every year, and that's why I'm surprised that it wasn't on this evening's committee, or even down for next week's, but next month's. But at least it's there now. But it would also be good to know some information about the grant, because I know Councillor Ferguson said there was still, the grant money was still there. So, and it would be good to know what what the council can put that grant towards to, get something or other going. And I look forward to the next meeting and the findings of what we've asked for this evening. Thank you.
Right, but like I said, I am aware of it. I was aware of it when it happened, and I have taken steps to ask what's happening. And you've just heard what Grant Taylor said about it. So it couldn't possibly go on the agenda for this evening because it's not ready.